Well, it's not going to be hard to increase the audience. It's at zero right now.
Дым от сигарет кружится, как тезис в споре, тонкий английский лед, под ним кипящее море. Рюмка на полпальца, где-то усталая печень, но он опять рвется в зал, как будто последняя встреча. Жесткое вино разума обжигает, но будет спящих каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал. Где-то в Багдаде жара тонет в сарказме и прозе. Он пишет, как режет ножом, по мифам на белой бумаге. В студиях, в старых барах, в маленьких залах кампусов он ставит под роспись богов и веру сдает под авансом. Жесткое вино разума обжигает, но будет спящих каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал. Тело слабеет, голос сипит, но шутка выходит точнее. Он поднимает стакан и говорит: поверим, кого соберет скорее. Публика держит дыхание, он не дает ей надежд, только упрямая еда к сомнению и крови. И следуй смерть, честное но разума обжигает, но будет спящий каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал.
I'd like to say it's a good evening, but it certainly fucking isn't, so it's kind of a rude opening. But last time we met, folks, that, of course, I think it was last Sunday, I believe, we ended the show by saying that Divided We Stand was not so much a slogan as it was a warning. And, Dave said, well, we ought to probably pick up on that at some point. And tonight's, I guess, one of those days where you say, we're here. It's time to break the glass, because, as you know, unless you've been living in a rabbit hole, another one of us has been taken down. Straighten out this, and somebody's been publicly executed. I'm getting tired of it. And what bothers me the most is these people just do not give a shit. They do not give a shit. So now even when you protest, you risk your life, and you got to figure out how to do this thing right. So I ask that you all share this out. This is Divided We Stand on Facebook and on YouTube. David and I ask that you share this out, like it, all that kind of thing. We are not a monetized channel. which means you don't have to worry about any kind of commercials. We're not looking for any kind of money. And at this point, nobody should be looking for anything except human decency. And that's not coming from the other side, and nor will it come. This is just something between us, something we have to figure out, how we're going to live and how we're going to die. Because some people are already dying. So without any further ado, let's bring in my good friend David Price, former educator. He's now a podcaster, musician, writer, whatever you want to say. Dave did it. Dave, I can only imagine how angry you are.
Well, here's what it is, okay? We all have to come to grips with one thing. America is at war. And for the first time since the Civil War, we are at war with ourselves. And to claim it's anything else, I don't quite get how anybody can arrive at any other conclusion. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that we, as a country, have never been here before in this respect. You know, Civil War didn't start overnight. The unofficial starting was, Fort Sumter and that kind of thing. And this didn't start overnight. What I think, in many ways, right now, except for the death count, and 2 or 1 or anything other than 0 is unacceptable. But I think, like right now, it's worse because if you are opposed in any way to Donald Trump, if you're opposed in any way to MAGA, if you're opposed in any way to the worst cabinet probably assembled, well, definitely the worst since Ulysses S. Grant's cabinet.
No, they're just the worst. They are just the fucking worst.
Yeah. And they're the worst of human beings. Now, there are some places, you can look for some comfort, and that's part of what we have to do. There are some places, if the road gets dark, even a flicker is good. Even in this dark weekend, there were a couple of flickers that I think were good. But the key is, I'm starting a thing on Monday. How can we trump Trump? It'll be online, and basically, the tagline is resist, recharge, repeat, and that's where we are. The questions are: how do we resist? Okay, how do we recharge? And where do we get the energy to come back again? And they're the things that we all have to work on. I'm going to use your town. Once it was my town for 59 and a half years. There's a group of women there. Give me a shout out. They call themselves BAT. It once stood for Bitches Against Trump, but some of the members said that was a little too strong, which is fine. So I'm not really sure what the B stands for, but they're doing a couple things that are very positive and are could be replicated anywhere. Number one, they are people who are unalterably opposed to Donald Trump and everything he stands for, right? They take it on themselves to constantly post and consistently post, which is important. And then they get together once a month. Like this show, we do it weekly. Part of it, as you always point out, is for those of like minds to commiserate. So that can be done anywhere in America, okay? And all it takes is a couple committed people to get it started. So that would be, one of the things that I would say tonight for anybody who says, okay, what do we do? Well, you start local, okay? And I'm of the belief now, which has never happened before in history, that something can be just as important that happens in Bridgeton, New Jersey, or in Boise, Idaho, or in Nogales, Arizona, as it is in New York City, Minneapolis, or Washington, D.C. So, again, I would say none of us, I know I don't have the answers right now, but collectively is what we have to do. Now, Brian, your thoughts.
Well, first of all, you have to kind of take a step back 6 hours or 7 hours ago. I'm just going down into the kitchen. I'm seemingly having a decent day. It's a day off. Maybe 20 minutes from talking with somebody from Russia, who's actually a person who backs Putin. It's always very difficult. And then Ronnie yells at and said somebody else has been shot. And then you start hearing a little bit more about this guy's biography. I believe his name is Alex Pretty. Seems to be a really, really decent guy. And then you see Pam Bondi come on, and then you had somebody from ICE saying that he was brandishing a gun, which was kind of interesting how they used that verb brandishing, which we didn't really know what brandishing meant. Was he holding it, or was it just there? And all these, Second Amendment people all of a sudden are kind of flip-flopping and, saying, like, this guy's carrying a gun, brandishing a gun. And all he was doing is trying to help somebody. All he's trying to do is help somebody. And then Pam Bondi's going off, calling the governor of Minnesota somebody who's trying to lead an insurrection. And meanwhile, he's trying to stop it. And I was so angry. And Dave, I usually hold off calling you. I usually wait. When we have a show, we have the show and we discuss it. But, Dave knows when I have to vent, and then I have to call Dave up. Because Dave makes me feel better. Because Dave's actually slightly more positive than I am. But he's not in any way positive. But this was just ugly because you just felt that, somebody was lying immediately. It's just one of those things. There's not enough information that you can verify. The Department of Justice, Bondi automatically has made her decision with any investigation. She makes her judgment. So again, what do we have? We have a public execution, no trial, no nothing. And of course, I like talking about the Supreme Court, how they're useless and they're very useful, but to Trump, they've done nothing. They gave him the immunity, and what we have is not a king, we have a tyrant. And now the guns are pointed at us, because the minute something like this happens, now as a protester, now you have to worry. And of course, there've been the guy who did that show Vices, he's saying, look, you've got to really be careful now. If you're going to protest, put your hands up and make sure you say that you're unarmed, make sure you videotape. Because it's obvious to me what Trump's trying to do. He's trying to incite some type of retribution from us. And then he can do what he wants to do. Because he knows what will happen in the midterms. And I'm frightened what's going to happen there, too. You're going to see these ICE agents at the polls and before then. So I am so angry, Dave, because it's just one of those things, kind of like an artist can kind of feel, how they want to paint something and, why do they do this? Well, it's my intuition. I don't even need the facts now. It doesn't matter because it's something that's flowing through me that says, and I don't like to say that I'm right without having some reasonable logic behind it, but you just know now. You can't even put Fox on it. And I know you can't watch it.
I've never watched it.
You get one word out of Pam Bondi, 3 minutes after the shooting, and you say, this is it. This is it. And I don't know how to respond to this aside from what I'm doing. But that poor guy, Alex Pretty, apparently a really decent guy, just fucking shot. And these guys are trying to figure out a way to just they don't give a shit about them. They don't give a shit at all. They're unbadged. They do what they want. And they don't care. They can just spill blood just like the other motherfucker who says, fucking bitch. There's no fucking regard for human life. They don't care about you. They don't care about you. They don't care about you. And yet we have to go on somehow. We can't accept this as human beings, as decent human beings. I am just so fucking pissed. The rage in me. I create the Walter Mitty world in myself when these things happen. I don't, outright do things, but I want to have the God powers to do something really, really horrendous. And I can't, because in real life I can't do it, Dave. But I'm so angry. I'm on fire. Literally, I cannot hack this. This is, you cannot go on like this. This is fucking outright execution in public. And if we survive, but Alex doesn't and Renee doesn't, what are we? How do we go about this? And where are our leaders? On the Democratic, I'm not talking about the Republican. We know where they are, Dave. They're not going to do anything. They're happy. Fucking Jeff Van Drew and his assholery. But they got to get their asses over there to Minnesota and put their bodies on the line. They're paid to do that. We elected them to do that. I don't know what else to say, Dave.
All right. Well, I'm going to take it, like I say, this way. A long time ago, in the 60s, there were people being killed all over the South. And they shared one thing in common. They were black. Didn't matter what age. Some of the youngest were in the church bombing. And Bull Connor was just as bad, maybe, on a relative scheme as ICE. And what happened then will not happen now. And what happened then was television was relatively new, right, in the 60s. And I would maintain with 100% certainty that one of the things that changed America's mind was watching those kids be hosed by the fire hoses, watch the dogs being turned out on them. But that we've just kind of become inured to that. It's like, oh, there's a school shooting. Oh, they got some video on it. Oh, it's unbelievable. But that's where we are. So I guess the first thing is maybe we need to look to some young people, to say, you're more adept at this society than we are. How do you move people with this? So that's a possibility. Now, as far as some good things this weekend, and I mean, they're always good. There's always bad. It doesn't matter. I thought the turnout in Minneapolis was very encouraging.
Considering the temperature.
Oh my God, it was like 400 degrees, below zero or something. So that town is committed, as it well should be. Okay, but there was, I mean, when you think of that turnout, and they've talked about, we've been comparing some turnouts that have happened in Europe. That seemed to be bigger. Well, this was as big as theirs. This was the city of Minneapolis standing up and saying no, just no. Again, going back to the 60s and looking, I know none of us want to hear this, but it's going to take some time. It's going to take time. Now, the question becomes how many die in between that time? And I'm not, dismissing the death of one person is too much, but maybe someday the two Minneapolis murderers will be enshrined as true heroes to America. And they are. Right now, they're the villains of the piece according to the evil dudes, and that's the way that will go down. To expect anything out of ICE is, they're not. They're not. They are a bunch of lawless, cretin thugs. Some of the jokes or some of the things they made out. Think about this, Brian. This really hit home. When have you heard about a Proud Boy, an Oath Keeper, the 3%, the J6ers? You don't. Do you know why? They're populating ICE. And it's a known fact. I mean, four J6ers have been traced, even though they try to keep a lid on who gets there. We all at times, I shouldn't speak for all, but I'm going to. I think every one of us at some point or another, sometimes daily, sometimes weekly, but at some point says, how can they be that way? How can they be that way? And that doesn't matter. You know why? They are that way. It doesn't matter how they got there.
It doesn't matter.
If you could, do a magic spell, or if you could pray them back to sanity, they're gone. They're gone. So it really hasn't, the severity of what they're doing has changed, but really not too many. The 30% that are true maggots are holding relatively steady, and they will. Another person today, I haven't quite gotten rid of yet, I will, posted something on the page. Not to me, but I mean, just, because we still Facebook friends as of today, not as of tomorrow. She was saying about socialism and how bad that could be. And she used a Churchill quote. And I'm going like, all that is immaterial right now.
Yeah, they're doing that. I've noticed that with some people like that on my page.
Yeah, and they're looking for every and any excuse. And I'm not so sure, Brian, and this is not a positive view of humanity, I'm not so sure that some of them are not suffering a couple pangs of conscience, right? But what they're coming at is this really, yeah, it is, and back out. So who the hell cares? There's no reason, in my estimation, for me to discuss, talk, consult, buy a soda for anybody who's for Donald Trump. They are my enemy. It's that simple. And if they're not my personal enemy, they're an enemy to the country that I believe in. So they are the enemy. Now, they just have a completely different view. But as I say, so Minneapolis was good. Okay. I think something else, on the other hand, that may bear some watching is the return of the Black Panthers. They're back. They're coming out. They are armed. They are dangerous to the bad guys. And you were a little young, but the Panthers were very effective until they got wiped out. But they were never the bad organization that people painted them as. They weren't. They were painted by Richard Nixon and J. Edgar Hoover, two of the worst people in American history, as that. So when they come out, all of a sudden now you're starting to say, well, wait a minute, they have guns. Well, what the fuck? You've been screaming for years that every American should have a gun, right? MAGA. Mm-hmm. That's one of their. Well, now, yeah.
Yeah, they don't like that when African Americans have guns.
Now, also, we got to be aware of a gun does not guarantee your safety. The gentleman who was murdered today had a weapon. He never unholstered the weapon. It was taken from him, and he was shot after they had the weapon. Okay, so it was just a cold-blooded execution on the street.
Right.
Nothing else.
Summarily executed.
And for, as you pointed out, for trying to help someone by taking
just trying to fucking help somebody.
Right. But Brian, we're fighting evil, okay? This is not some made
up.
We
know. Look at that. She fucking Christy fucking kills a dog. Just shoots a fucking dog out of nowhere.
It's evil. It's evil, Brian. It's evil, and we're fighting evil. And sometimes the good guys get disadvantaged because there's nothing the evil won't do. Nothing. And we do have some.
And they have license now.
And they do. Now, the question becomes, which is interesting so far. I don't use that word interesting. I got to find another word for it. It's not. But anyway, we haven't seen it tested yet. So far, the two murders that we've seen recently were done by uniformed thugs. Right? We haven't seen your Kyle Rittenhouses take to the streets yet. And maybe they won't, because they figure, I don't have to go out there because they're shooting them. That's good.
Right.
Let's applaud. You can't use logic against them. That we know. Logic is not going to move
unacceptable
anybody. It doesn't matter because they will refute it. It doesn't matter what you say. So again, it comes down to what can you do now? But here's the thing psychologically that I believe. If you don't do something, it's not good for you. I mean, unless you're them, then them. So find those things. There's some things, and you don't have to leave your house to do them if that's a concern. Now, I don't really share that concern so much, not because I'm brave or not because I'm stupid or anything like that. It's, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, both as a reporter and as an activist. So I've been on, those two things. And so I kind of, there's a saying in the military, keep your head on the swivel. And that's basically what I do. Yeah. Oh yeah. No question, Jeff. No question. But they can't shoot everybody. But I understand another thing we can't do, Brian, and I'm a little concerned about this too, is it doesn't matter what a person does as long as they're doing something. Like to dismiss anybody who takes a stand, well, that's not the right thing to do. No, anything you do, anything you do that's aimed at Donald Trump, I mean, imagine tonight, won't happen, but, if you go back to the imaginary God of the Old Testament, he's pretty much an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth guy, right? I mean, that was the way it worked.
Well, according to Trump, God's proud of him.
Well, let's see if he's proud of him this way. What about if pastors, looking at that, came out and said, you know what? I think we ought to all pray tonight for the death of Donald Trump. Now,
Maybe the pastors, pastors are no different than the Pope. They're not going to do anything. They don't even deserve the title of reverend. Who should give them any reverence if they're not going to do something?
Well, some of them are.
Do
not
something.
All of them are not.
A few of them. I'm few, but most aren't going to do anything.
Here's the problem, Brian. The Democrats, and we'll speak politically for a minute. I've said this before, but it is worth mentioning every time this comes up. The Democrats are a big umbrella organization. They take in a lot of different people. That's good in one sense, but it's bad because some of those subgroups are just focusing on themselves, right? Like somebody might say, I'm just making this up. Somebody might say who's a staunch supporter of female rights, which we all should be, but says, you know what, right now they're not affecting our female rights so much. Let's not get involved in this. Well, I would dispute with anyone out there, if you have any standard at all, and you are active in any organization at all that is at least a bit political, they are attacking you. And you can't say, well, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, they didn't do this thing,
Right.
They didn't do that. Now, some more good things along those lines. Much more than the left, the right is influenced by pop culture more than the left. Okay, and one of the avenues of pop culture.
I'm going
to say that because the left. Okay, that's a good point. Good question, right? So, in general, the left is full of a lot of independent thinkers. Okay, there are no independent thinkers on the right, so they look for an authority figure, and right now, pop culture is being dominated by podcasting. Okay, it's now, especially among young people, it's now over more than 70% of young people age 30 or under get all their news from social media. Okay. And so but now at one point it goes back and forth in a battle for first place, like it goes back and forth between Musk and Bezos, who's the richest man in the world. Joe Rogan and Mrs. Kelsey, very different podcasters. But Rogan has probably had the longest tenure, Joe Rogan, as the number one podcaster in terms of audience in the world. And Mr. Rogan has turned completely on Mr. Trump. Now, what happens now is this causes a cognitive question in your mind. Am I a Joe Rogan follower or am I a Donald Trump follower?
And what does Trump do with Rogan?
Nothing yet. And I don't know that he can. I don't know that he can. See, Brian, there's a difference between coming out against Tim Walz, okay, for doing the right thing. But Joe Rogan's in your group, and Joe Rogan is influential in your group. And I mean, if Trump has any semblance of sanity, or if anybody around him does, they're going to caution him to go, don't go off, full tilt boogie here, because Rogan has millions of listeners, all of whom voted for you. You don't, do you really want to do that? So yeah, another thing, I was shocked about this, as you said, I'm not, again, just bears repeating, I am proof that you can survive without watching the news. I have not watched any kind of news since 1976. I get it out, I get it. I think I'm as well informed as just about anybody around, for what I do, but I get it. And the reason for that, Brian, is somewhat scientific too. The news media on TV is very visceral and visual. And that has much more of an impact in words. In words, you can slow down, you can digest. So it's not, and that's before we got into AI, and we talked about another show. But this idea that I was shocked about this, and this means something big, Brian. I don't know what it is. Rupert Murdoch, he gave authorization for Fox News to come out and say, it may be time. Donald may be losing it. Now, suddenly now you have the number one right-wing podcaster in America. You've got the number one right-wing organization, news organization, and it doesn't stop there. You got Tucker Carlson. Now he's running for president, in my estimation, I guess. But Tucker also, and so you've got that bickering. Also, we're not privy to all the discussions, but you still got the Charlie Kirk murder, and there's a lot more there than we know. So on one hand, as you look at it and hear it, yes, it seems that Trump is invincible. You've been one of the drum beaters for this, and you're absolutely right. Somehow being like, not using the Teflon Don, but somehow Trump's gotten through his life without paying for his sins. I mean, that part's just true. That much is true. But he's never been president. We can't say that. He was president. But this is Donald Trump, the madman. Before it was Donald Trump, the stupid man. Donald Trump, the vindictive man. Mm-hmm. We have to face the reality that we have an insane person in the White House, an insane person with the nuclear codes, if they're giving them to him. Now, we've talked about it. One of the nice things about living here in Washington, D.C. is you get, I don't get any real insight, but you do get some. So it was the wife of a relatively high-ranking Pentagon official this week, and he's leaving. He said, this is not the army I signed up for, and he's leaving. Well, that's good, a moral stand, but that means another place where they can slide in someone. Same with Dan Bacon, the representative from Nebraska. I'm not going to make him a hero, but he's standing up now. But you know why? Because he's not running for re-election. So what today taught us is, on one level, if you go outside to protest, you're risking your life. Okay? That's it. No other message there. However, I'm going to suggest to you, if you go out of your house, you're risking your life with these guys. It doesn't matter. You just have to be, what's the old saying? Wrong place, wrong time. You just have to be around them. And so the question becomes for each of us is how far are we willing to go? What are we willing to risk? And you shouldn't, none of us have any right to criticize somebody who says, this is very important to me, but I'm just not going to do anything right now out there. I'm going to take care of my grandkids. I'm going to take care of my kids. I have a mother who's, all that enters in. But you still can do shit from your house. Now, you say it doesn't matter. People say, it does matter, okay? All that is wrong is doing nothing. That's all that's wrong.
Yes,
everything,
I agree with you.
Everything else. And it's not just wrong for the cause, it's wrong for the human being. If you have, then something we haven't addressed for a few shows is, and I don't know if you can believe polling. A lot of, but there's still that, this is not half the country against half the country. It's a third of the country against a third of the country against the holdouts and sit-outs. And where are they now? Now, I would have to think, and looking at some of the polls, that they are moving more in the direction of away from Trump than toward him. And also, Trump has, again, one of the reasons why he's successful. Oh, I'm going to tariff everybody in the world. Oh, I'm not going to tariff anybody today. I never said I was going to tariff anybody. Oh, I'm going to tariff at 75. Here's something else that's coming up that'll be big. Trust me, it will be big. We are supposed to host the World Cup. Well, North America is supposed to host the World Cup because it's some games again. He has 75 75 countries are on the ban list right now to take people in. That's our number right now. 17 of those countries have qualified for the World Cup. Now, that doesn't mean all 17 will get there. Now, so what you're seeing already is people are not going to come tour. Now, that, in the long run, that doesn't mean anything to Donald Trump. He doesn't care. I think you saw or maybe you didn't see the announcement today. I thought it was interesting. I'm not going to the Super Bowl. I don't like the acts there because they don't like me. That says something too, though, Brian. That says something too. The NFL made a decision, and they're pretty powerful, okay? The NFL said it would be better us to expand our world exposure because Bad Bunny, if you don't know who he is, right now he would be Taylor Swift is huge. Bad Bunny is bigger in the world, right? He doesn't sing in English. He sings in Spanish. He claims, or he says, I shouldn't say claims. He says, or there's reports, I shouldn't say he says, there's reports out that he's going to wear a dress for part of the show in solidarity, he's a big advocate of gay rights. But NFL's sticking to their guns. Well, that was a choice, but their second choice as the group that performs before the Super Bowl is Green Day. And Green Day, along with Neil Young and Bruce Springsteen and Jack White and a few other huge music stars, they're 100% against MAGA and him. So the NFL sees something. They would not be doing that if they thought, I believe that to be true. If they thought Donald Trump was going to be around for any period of time, I don't think they would be doing that. You saw his hands. It's now switched. I don't know if you noticed that. The marks that were on his one hand is now on his other hand. Yeah.
And I don't know, if it's just they're putting in an IV in a different hand. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We
it doesn't look good, whatever it is.
We're never going to know. We're never going to know until years from now. And you and I might not, well, I won't be on the planet. You might still. So we begin to find out because no one, I guess this is what I sit back and it really does. Not one friggin' person in the Trump administration will speak the truth. Not one. Not one. So no matter what they say is a lie. It doesn't matter what they say.
Right.
And, the comparisons to 1984 are there. The comparisons to, whatever you want, Handmaid's Tale, all that. But I think the thing that stuns me, and I'd like anybody that has a theory on this, listening tonight or listening later, I don't quite get, I get a lot of it, but I don't quite get how people can look at something and because the president of the United States or his spokesperson says it wasn't that, agree that it wasn't. That's some freaky ass devotion. But again, we have to look at it. I've maintained this all along. In order to be MAGA, you have to submit to authoritarian principles to begin with. And by authoritarian comes from the word authority. So we have a negative concept of authoritarianism, as we should. But authority, and I come from a whole different viewpoint. I'm almost always anti-authority. Mm-hmm. But secondly, I will work and respect authority that deserves the respect. There are a lot of MAGA people that I've run across, in the past, 10 years? Oh, you're supposed to support the president. Bullshit. But they believe that, so their tendency is, to do that. Another thing that happens with MAGA, they really are suffering from low self-esteem, a lot of them. They think that, okay, I'll use myself as an example. I'm not the smartest person. Actually, there are two of us in this house, and I'm not the smartest person in the house. So, or in the apartment. But what I see a lot with them is, and I've had this happen to me too. You think you're so smart because you use those big words. Well, for some of us, they're not big words. They're just words that we use, right? So what we know, sum up a little bit, none of it's good. Donald Trump is our enemy. Agree?
Absolutely.
Donald Trump's cabinet is our enemy. Agree?
Absolutely.
The MAGA wing, which is the only wing of the Republican Party in the House and Senate, is our enemy.
Yes.
The Supreme Court is our enemy.
Yes.
The militarized paramilitary force that Trump has assembled by ICE is our enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So who are our friends? Well, let's begin to think. Who are our friends? You've articulated it pretty well. For some of us, it may be time to look and figure out, or try to figure out, how do we get France and Germany and Canada and Mexico, and anybody who didn't join the $1 billion club, whatever the hell that is. I said when we were talking today, that was kind of a revelation to me. I mean, living through the 60s, there was no question I was anti-government. I was anti-Nixon. I was anti-Vietnam War. I was pro-civil rights. There were I was pro women's rights. I was pro-gay right. But I never once considered taking up arms or aiding an enemy of the country. I never thought about doing that with the Viet Cong, with any of that. It was just, okay. And that's not the case now. If I could give some aid to Canada coming in, or Denmark defending Greenland, now would I be violent?
Well, if they came at somebody you loved, you would be violent. I mean,
no. Well, that's never been a question, Brian. But see, where that gets tricky is where do you define, not who do you love, but where do you define they're coming after them? That's hard. Like, in other words, if somebody breaks into your house, I have no qualms about taking them out if I can. But what about right now? What about every Latino Hispanic in America? They're coming for them. Micah does not know what words mean. Yeah. Well, they pick up the other thing, modern monk movement. That's an interesting name. I like that. A tag. There are studies out there now, and they've kind of, again, we still have studies. There won't be studies if Donald Trump stays in all 4 years. There won't be any scientific studies left. But there's actually, interesting enough now, linking liberalism and intelligence. And it makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Does.
In general, if you go to college, right, in general, you value knowledge more than somebody who doesn't. It doesn't mean you're a better person. It doesn't mean you're going to be a richer person either. And when you tend to go to college does have an effect of being around so many people that you do, no matter what you enter, pretty much no matter how you enter college, unless you go directly to, the Truthers or some conservative organization, you'll probably come out more liberal. So that doesn't surprise me. But where it comes in is, then, what do you mean? And I'm sure you've heard this too. I know in Bridgeton, this predates MAGA, just when it was a bunch of redneck hicks. You guys, you think you don't have any common sense. Well, explain to me, any MAGA person out there, how you're using common sense to defend Donald Trump.
Right.
I'll listen to you. So, but again, I want to keep repeating this because it's so important, not just for the country, not just for our progeny, not just for our future, for each of us. Find something, anything you can do, even if it's just listening to a podcast, right? That are doing, or another thing. I'm going to go kind of one of the crusades I'm going to be on now. Ditch the mainstream media. Have nothing to do with it. Find the truth is on Substack. The truth is on Patreon. The truth is on Medium. The truth is not there. The truth is on Blue Sky. The truth, it's there, but you're not going to get it. CBS, in my estimation right now, is far lower than Fox will ever sink. Okay.
Can you tell us what? I know what CBS.
Well, basically, what's happened is all the networks are so concerned about not necessarily money. See, people miss that. Yeah, they want to make money, but there's something. You know what's the most valuable thing a network has? Any idea?
Viewers.
Nope. More important than viewers, even. Want me to tell you? I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, this is.
Besides saying
It's your license to broadcast. Without your license to broadcast, you do not exist. And Trump has gone on record. I mean, he's done it all the time. He's threatened to cancel, do the network in, do that. And so what happened with CBS, they put a person in who has no business being within 500 feet or 5 miles of a newsroom, Carrie Weiss. And she's in charge. And the thing that's so damaging about that is that CBS News was the most respected. It's the home of Edward R. Murrow. It's the home of Walter Cronkite. It's the home of Dan Rather. And the list goes on and on and on. And it's going to be amazing. The new puppet they put in, that was one of the most embarrassing things that the new CBS, main desk guy. It was just an embarrassment. So that's something that I would encourage people to change where they get their news from, because it's not truthful. They are bought. Yeah, we know Fox, we know AON, we know Newsmax, but the other networks, they didn't stand by Colbert.
Right.
They didn't stand by.
And then Colbert is joining forces with Jimmy Kimmel and.
That's not
Jimmy
true.
Fallon, right? No?
I'd love to say that. No, it's all out in the place now. This is another thing, word of caution tonight. I will guarantee, and I'd come to anybody's home if they wanted me to, and they pay for it. I guarantee, Brian, no matter how selective you are, that at least 35 to 40% of what you see on your Facebook page is not true.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter how careful, because the algorithms send it whether you want it or not. I'm not saying you subscribe to it. I've seen that. And they fall into themes. And one of those themes that you see repeated, in fact, if you see it repeated again and again, it's pretty much, and it isn't true. There's a picture that they did. It's an AI picture right after that of Kimmel, Kimmel, Colbert, Stewart, all the biggies, right? They're going to form this new network. Rachel Maddow's name is thrown in there a lot. No, none of that is true. And what they know is you want it to be true. Now, Colbert is not going to suffer. Colbert will bounce back. He'll be fine. But again, a positive. Kimmel was gone until the public raised itself, and that made them
right,
think.
That was great.
But we have it's interesting, Brian, if you think about it. Our enemies are economically way up here. Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Thiel, the list goes on.
Mm-hmm.
But our enemies are way down here too, with the lowest forms of American society. The Proud Boys, the J6ers, the Oath Keepers, the Klan, the Aryan Nation. And in between that, and this is another place where they seem to be losing a little bit of their, is women, women who follow them. And their numbers with women aren't the way that it was. Maybe that's due to maternal instincts. Maybe they see the gentleman that was murdered as their son or their husband, somebody. And again, a friend of mine who is very well politically connected here in terms of, both. He's a street activist and also, connected to politicians here. And he came up with a really good, he said, you know why we feel so right now? He said, it's like we're in the eye of the hurricane, right? Mm-hmm. And we know it's around, but we can't figure out, what can we do? What do we do? Because we're too, it's not the best scientific analogy, but it works. In other words, we know the storm's there, but how do we, what do we do about it? Today, I don't know how it is down your way. They were out salting the roads starting and, Snowmageddon, which won't happen. DC is notorious for 2 snowflakes and they cancel school. I mean, they do that all the time. But we know how to handle an approaching snowstorm, right? I mean, we kind of know. We don't know, Brian, and this may be the crux of the show tonight. We don't know how to handle an internal takeover. Well, Jeff, as long as you know which one to listen to. There's an Abbott on this show, and there's a Costello on this show. There's a Laurel on this show. There's a Hardy on this show. There's a Stormy Daniels on this show. There's a Melania Trump on this show. So as long as you pick the right one, you'll be fine. And that's another thing. I mean, sometimes, and I don't anymore, Brian. This is so bad that as long as you have to have some. I don't mean even a sense of humor. It can be off color. It can be grotesque. It can be macabre. Anything you can do to have a moment's sanity. Yeah. I mean, and now here's another thing. Okay, so Jeff Bezos, who runs. Oh, here's one for you. Okay, so our seventh son, Jack was in. He had a book talk in Washington, so we went to that. That was kind of cool. But anyway, we got him on a plane. So took him down to the airport here. It's only 49 seconds from our house by metro. And we go in, and there's a new gate check-in for Amazon employees because Amazon is located here. Now, it makes sense, right? I mean, I understand that the logic of it, but, all of a sudden they become preferred. Well, money is preferred. Well, in order to keep that status, they've got to keep ties with Trump. So what do? They decided to make a $40 million movie. I believe Melania got $25 million of it. Mm-hmm. Her life story. Her life story, I don't know if you've seen the meme, but it's really there. Me fuck, me get money. That's what the meme says. And that's kind of the way it worked. But anyway, it's going to debut at the Kennedy Center. Okay? Now, the Kennedy Center is almost literally an empty shell now. No one goes. I'll use us as an example. We probably went to the Kennedy Center at least four times a month. Since we've been once, and we won't go again until the name comes off. But here's what they do. So they're going to paper. They're giving away tickets so that it doesn't look empty. So a really good organization is going to point that out. You could be able to find, if anybody says, well, I mean, it's there, the sales are down, her posters are being disfigured and doodled on everywhere, but that's another way. And again, I will admit tonight that I don't know if I want to say I underestimated Donald Trump, but I just didn't think he was the guy who would get us where we are now. But what I didn't realize, and it took me some time to do this, is that everything he lacks in terms of humanity makes him, if he tries, the ultimate con man. Think about that. If you have, it's like
just
take
the fact
all
that
the
became
con men.
President is
but that again is if you look, there's been some postings out there, basic, and I believe this is true. Trump allows you to hate, gives you the right to hate the people you want to hate. That's really what it's about. You hate liberals, Trump's your guy. You hate blacks, Trump's your guy. You feel, a threat from women, Trump's your guy. You worried about 72 gender operations. I'll ask you, how many gender change operations have you seen in Bridgeton High School?
I don't know. There may be one or two, and I
meant that were performed in the high school itself.
Oh, zero. Yeah, zero.
Right. And anybody who's taught or knows it, but there are MAGA people out there that bought that line.
Right.
So, I think what we'd say, but again, I think that is now.
By the way, Dave, you know. We have a large immigrant population, and I've been told last year that there's no way, and this is from somebody who's probably a Trumper, saying that they have to have a search warrant to come in.
They do.
I'm not so sure now that that's true.
They don't now. They don't. No. Look, it's okay. It's very simple. This has nothing to do with. And I'm not saying you. I'm saying to anybody else. This has nothing to do with immigration. Nothing other than as a fallback. This is simply a power play to show, and it's Stephen Miller and some others. It's not, Donald Trump's not smart enough to do this. It's to say, don't mess with us. And you said it earlier in the show. Brian, almost as directly as this: don't mess with us or we'll kill you.
Right.
And we'll kill you without reason. We'll kill you without rhyme. We'll kill you without the law. And do you realize, people don't realize this, and I wish they would, it is not a felony to be here without papers. So it's just like getting an auto ticket. Now the difference is, you can be, I mean, if you don't have your citizenship, and before you could get caught up, and again, I'm all for making sure that people don't come into the country who don't deserve to come in. But if you ask me tomorrow, would I rather live in a community full of immigrants and not knowing whether they were legal or not, or a community full of MAGA? I know which choice I would make every single time, every single day, every single moment. And I came to a realization today, as I started to say before earlier, but when we're talking about the ministers, there are some rumblings here. They're starting to rise, and
I just don't. I see very
well,
few.
no, you know why? In your area, Richard, here's what happened. Exactly what happened. There's that one main black church where everybody wants to get ahead goes, and Reverend Morgan has not spoken out against it. Neither has Mayor Kelly, and there's a reason for that too. Angie Edwards, who was a big power, her brother Todd, they're all Republicans now. The Republicans bought them, just like Jeff Van Drew. They put their finger up. Oh, wind's blowing Republican today. They all have jobs. So the corruption is worse than anybody can imagine. The hideous beliefs of the Trump administration are worse than anyone can imagine. We know that he is insane or syphilitic or demented or senile or all of the above, stupid, all of the above. What depth will he seek? What will he do? Well, I don't know. Is there a bottom to him? So how, with all this, you'd be crazy if you were sitting there smiling. It would actually be insane unless you had some way figured that you're going to sell guns to everybody and make a fortune or something. Something like that. So again, I'm going to kind of say where I started. My message to anyone who is concerned about America is this: do your research, find out what you can do. If it isn't being done, can you start it yourself, right? And you don't have to go outside of your community. You can do it at school boards. You can do it at zoning boards. You can see that, Brian, we've had that discussion a million times. That's where the Republican brain trust coming out of, like Project 2025 or Heritage or AEI, they were so smart. They didn't start at the national level. They built their way up. Mm-hmm. And Democrats always were focusing on the national election. And again, the other thing I always caution people now, look, you can't look back. You can't use whataboutism and you can't look back. And what I mean by that is, was there a chance to stop Donald Trump? Yes. Did the Democratic Party take advantage of that possibility? No.
Right.
Your favorite, being very sarcastic, I would love to give a truth serum to Merrick Garland.
Yes.
And just because, again, people lie. I mean, we all lie. I mean, it's not it's not like not going to send you to hell condition, but you always try to paint yourself in the best light that you can. But Merrick Garland, something, I don't know. I mean, and I don't think he was bought. I mean, I don't think money exchanged hands. It was just, he was, same thing I see.
He
Comey.
feared what was going to happen to him in terms of
or his reputation for being, this. And those days, that's another thing. It's good. Got a couple minutes here. I want to say, you can't worry about being fair and balanced. The only thing you can worry about is
Bruce
not
Schrader
crossing.
didn't, did he?
No, I'm just saying, the only thing you can do is figure out where your lines are and don't cross those. Then you become, like I said, my line is, if I had a gun right now, I was in the White House and I could have a chance to kill Donald Trump, I would not do that.
Neither
That's a
would
line
I.
I would not cross. Now, if somebody was in there with a gun, I don't think I'd stop them. But I might not do that anyway. But I'm just, so I mean, you find your lines, and you go there. And something, again, you have to be careful. But also, if you have a little bit of money, find somewhere where you can give it to. And it doesn't have to be the politicians. Give it to an organization that's doing something for immigrants. Give it to an organization that's doing something for trans men and women. Um, but the thing I think as we close and we wind down, see, I'm not trying to be careful. I'm just trying to think what it is. I am astonished, whatever word you want to say, that three things happened. First, that we are where we are in a year. Secondly, that citizens are getting murdered on American streets by supposed law enforcement officials. But thirdly, that all this is caused by a man with the intellectual ability of Donald Trump. And we can't explain it. We can't worry about it. We just have to try to figure out how to stop it.
All right, Dave. On that note, let's tell everybody we'll probably be back next week the same time. If not, we'll get a hold of you. And I'm sure we'll just have to wait and see what happens this week. Every day's a new day and could be worse than the next. Who knows? So let's just, like Dave says, let's all just try to do something in some way. And that's what we're doing tonight. And don't forget, please subscribe and join our page on Facebook. Dave, thank you very much.
Oh, you don't ever have to thank me. This is
all right, and we'll fight the good fight. All right?
All right, man.
See you.